So welcome to On the Park Bench, a public square conversation, and it's brought to you by the Congress for the New Urbanism. On the Park Bench presents interactive conversations with thought leaders in new urbanism and allied industries, providing an opportunity for the audience to engage in real time. And today we're going to have a discussion on new urban development in Oklahoma, Infill and Newtown, specifically the Wheeler District and Carlton Landing. And our guests today are Ashley Terry and Katie Chapman, and the interviewer is myself, Rob Steuteville. So share your thoughts on hashtag on the park bench, www.tinyurl.com/OTPB feedback, and register for the coming webinar next Tuesday, also at 12 noon Eastern Time. And the people at the Incremental Development Alliance will be talking about current projects and how to bring together a team of small developers to revitalize a city during and after the pandemic. Go to seeing.Carlton.com/resources/on-the-park-bench for more information and to register. And wanted to talk a little bit about Seeing 30 in Oklahoma City, which is coming up in 2 weeks. March 23rd through 26th, 2022. And it's going to be CNU's first in-person Congress since 2019. Meet up with some of the great urbanists working in America and elsewhere, and meet up with your colleagues, visit Oklahoma City, which has a lot of great things going on in terms of how they have transformed their downtown and adjacent neighborhoods. There's also tours of the two projects that we're going to be talking about today. So learn more, seeing.org/seeing30. And before you do that, you might want to join or renew your membership, become a current member, and save $200 off your Seeing 30 registration. Check your membership status today at members.seeing.org/memberships. And joining us today are Ashley Terry, who is VP of Development at the Wheeler District in Oklahoma City. The Wheeler District is a redevelopment of a former municipal airport about a mile or so from downtown into a mixed-use neighborhood with up to 2,000 homes. Katie Chapman is Director of Sales at Carlton Landing, a new town that's being built about 2 hours east of Oklahoma City. It covers a larger area and is planned for about 2,500 homes. And both of these are major undertakings planned by well-known new urbanist firms both in Oklahoma. The developers are brothers Grant and Blair Humphreys. I'm Rob Steuteville, editor of CNU's Public Square. So first, Ashley and Katie are going to present. I think Ashley first, followed by a discussion with me, followed by Q&A from the audience. And so use the Q&A function of Zoom to ask your questions as they occur to you. And I'm going to pass this along, and we can begin.
Perfect. Thank you so much to Rob and to CNU for hosting this today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to get my screen shared here. I'm assuming that everybody can see that okay. All right. Well, I'm here to talk to you guys today about Wheeler District. As Rob mentioned, my name is Ashley Terry, and I serve as the Vice President of our development. I've been with the project since 2015, and I'm just really excited to be here and share a little bit about it with you. So Wheeler District, as Rob mentioned, is a 150-acre mixed-use master plan development. We are a 1.25 miles from the CBD in downtown Oklahoma City, and we have about 3/4 of river frontage along the Oklahoma River. Our site includes the former Downtown Air Park, which is a private airport here that operated until the late 80s, early 90s here in Oklahoma City. And really, our goal with Wheeler District is to offer a range of housing opportunities in a walkable and bikeable community. So I thought I might start by sharing just a little bit with how it began. So for us, it all began with a charrette. We hosted a charrette back in 2014 with Dover Coal and Partners. They came here to Oklahoma City and spent a week with about 1,000 people from our broader community. And it really offered people an opportunity to share their thoughts and their visions and their dreams for what they wanted to see in a new community. We asked people, if you could live anywhere, where would you live? And we heard things like Denver, Portland, Philadelphia, Chicago. And so really those answers and the information we collected from the broader community during the charrette really led us to design a really dense master plan for Oklahoma City. So this is the master plan design that came out of the 2014 charrette. You know, we were able to really take all of that information, take our site and the context around us, and really work into what we're pretty excited to share with Oklahoma City and with you here today. So those main framework pieces you can see here within the master plan. We do have a major thoroughfare that bisects the project, Western Avenue here in Oklahoma City. And so really through that master plan process, we worked out opportunities for how we might take this site and this project and that feedback and share it with you. So then we have to take all of that vision and turn it into a reality. I think with master plan projects, we often view them as one big, giant development, and they are at the end of the day, but as part of that process, really these are incremental projects. So for us, that 150 acres gets broken down, not just horizontally in a timeline, but vertically, and how are we actually going to take the site down? How many acres should each phase be? What should each phase hold, and things like that. So we've been at this for a while, as you can see here by our timeline. Things kicked off in 2006 whenever the land was supposed to be purchased. Fun fact, actually, Grant Humphreys was supposed to lead the Wheeler District development, but that was planned to kick off in 2008. For obvious reasons, in 2008, that project did not take place. And so Grant went on to go do Carlton Landing during that time, which Katie will share about here in just a little bit. Blair came back from MIT and really took on Wheeler District with gusto, kicking off with that charrette in 2014. And really our team has been at it since then. So we took things down, as I mentioned, in an incremental way. So you can see here what we've been working on. The area shown in blue that you can see on your screen here is our phase 1 and 2. So this represents about 36 of the 150 acres of the Wheeler District development. So this is really, when you come out here and tour it with CNU here in a couple of weeks, this is what you're going to see here on the ground. And you can see that it really just represents a small, almost about a quarter of the project that we have ahead of us. This is Wheeler District as it looks today, a nice glowy twilight picture, but this gives you a good idea of the size and the scale of what we're working with on the ground today. Just to share a few numbers with you guys, so we have about 115 occupied homes. We've got about another 30 under construction. 27 of those are already sold. We've got about 40,000 square feet of commercial space here in phase 1, a couple of playgrounds, a park, a neighborhood pool, an elementary school, which I'll share about here in a little bit, and of course, a Ferris wheel. So really, we took that vision, worked it into a reality, and we did that by focusing on a handful of key ingredients for our project. And so those 4 key ingredients were new homes in the urban core, outdoor spaces for everyone, the idea of being able to live, work, and play all in one space, and then really a commitment to being part of the broader Oklahoma City story. I'll share about each one of these things. These are definitely principles that you'll see in lots of different new urbanist communities. So for us, really, we started with housing product. That was really kind of the first structures that were built out here. We hit the ground running with about 12 houses. We're really proud of our cottage home product. So this is a 600 to 1,200 square foot product. It hit the market at about $150,000 with a sales price. This is a simple, clean design. These cottages sit on a 24 by 36 lot. and they front along a pedestrian street called Peddler's Lane. These cottages were really designed to create connections between neighbors and really kind of a special little place within our community. Our standard home offering are runway homes, aptly named after the downtown air park on Runway Boulevard. These range about 1,500 to 3,000 square feet. They start at a sales price of about $375,000 and really range all the way up to a contract that we just signed for over $1 million. This is the bulk of our home stock. These are really designed around livable front porches with alley-fed garages, which you can see here. One product that we're really excited about, and this product really evolved from that cottage product, is our terrace home product. So these are 1,700 square feet. There's a handful of them. They also sold for $429,000. These came along as a way for us to really create an urban verticality, but in a single family product. You'll see here when you come to Oklahoma City, the attached product isn't quite as common as it might be in other markets. And so for us, even offering a 3-foot separation and what we call a detached townhome, which we are fully aware what we're saying when we say that. But really that allows us to really create that urban verticality. We thought it might be kind of fun to paint this product in an interesting way. And so we created an ombre gradient, these front on the major thoroughfare for the next couple of years. And they have a really beautiful terrace on the front. Another real key ingredient of our project is creating outdoor spaces that are for everyone. The one that everyone's most familiar with is the Wheeler Ferris wheel. You know, if you're familiar with the story, you know that it came from the Santa Monica Pier. The Ferris wheel was actually purchased by Grant Humphreys on eBay. Yes, you can purchase anything on eBay, even a Ferris wheel. So that was really kind of the first piece of our development in 2016. We kicked things off with that. It's really become an outdoor space for the broader Oklahoma City community to enjoy. We're excited to welcome you all here. We've got pocket parks and playgrounds throughout our first couple phases of development. Lots of patios. We're really focused on providing flexible, shareable, open space that really invites the community to come in and enjoy our project. We've got a 1-acre park and neighborhood pool that we're kicking off as part of phase 2 that'll be open this summer. And Runway Boulevard has a bike and pedestrian path down the center. And really this will eventually reach all the way up to connecting to the Oklahoma River trails. Again, that idea of live, work, and play all in one place. So we're really focused around the opportunity to provide people the chance to maybe live in Wheeler District, work in Wheeler District, and play in Wheeler District. One way that we've done that is through a shop home product. This product is really fun because it has a flexible commercial space on the ground floor with residential above. This is an attached product that we brought to market in May of 2020. We brought 10 of these to market and sold all 10 of them in 3 weeks. So this is a product that I think a lot of people are really excited about. It's been really fun to see how people use the flexible commercial space and how they've really jumped in and embraced this new product for Oklahoma City. You can see here again, these front on a bike and pedestrian street, and we're really excited. You can see a branding firm, a coffee shop, and a wine shop in 3 of these here. Probably our largest civic commitment that we've made to date is our involvement in Western Gateway Elementary School. So this was a piece of our project that we kicked off in 2015. It opened in August of last year. The exciting thing about Western Gateway is its curriculum. So it has a dual immersion curriculum where students are learning in English and in Spanish and are receiving a bilingual education. This really speaks to not just our civic commitment, but really honoring the context of our project through our involvement with this piece of the project. You can see here that it has a neighborhood boundary that serves multiple neighborhoods, including Wheeler District. There's 5 neighborhoods in total that this elementary school serves as of August of this year. Another piece that we're really excited about is our Wheeler Criterium races. When you're here on Tuesday for CNU, you'll have a chance to check these out. So these Criterium races actually happen on the streets of Wheeler District on Tuesday nights. It's a lot of fun to come down. Neighbors line Runway Boulevard and other places in the neighborhood, and they have cowbells and all kinds of other things to cheer the cyclists along. So that's a really fun piece of it. Of course, I'll just end kind of end by saying that none of this would have been possible without our partnership with the city of Oklahoma City. So Wheeler District does have a TIF. You can see here how it's broken down into 3 key elements. But really, I think the important thing to understand about the Wheeler District TIF, and really it's the first of its kind in Oklahoma City, is the structure in which the developer is taking on the upfront risk. It's specific to public infrastructure and the elementary school, and the developer is only eligible for reimbursement once the costs have been spent and once the increment has actually been made. So that's just a little bit about the Wheeler District. It's a quick 10 minutes to fit in everything we've been working on for the last few years. But we're really excited to welcome you to Oklahoma City and excited to dive into some of the Q&A that I'm already seeing come through here. So I'm going to hand this over to Katie so that she can share about Carlton Landing with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rob. We'll go with this. All right. I'll just say next slide.
Okay, let me get on full screen view. I can't seem to. All right, well, I will just go. I'm sorry, I don't have the full screen view, but at least you can see it.
Okay. I think you guys were seeing my messy desktop with a fake.
Do you want to start there? Or?
Yep, go into the master plan. Yep. Okay, so again, our master plan was done by DPZ. We are 10 years into a 30-year master plan. It has evolved a little bit because we do allow the lake and the land in our community have a voice in the way our town is designed and grows. I do believe with each step that our core principles and beliefs have inspired the master plan do remain. So we're about 15% built out with 300 existing units. We are on track to have over 2,000 homes, and we expect to realize the majority of that growth over the next 10 to 15 years. You can go to the next slide. This is Lake Eufaula. It is a 150 square mile Corps of Engineer reservoir with 600 miles of shoreline. The lake was christened by Lyndon Johnson in 1964, and we are able to enjoy the natural landscape and mature vegetation protected by the Corps. Next slide. Another perspective, you can see how we're located on a peninsula and able to enjoy the lake from 3 sides. It also protects us from wildfires. The lake is truly the heart of Carlton Landing. Next slide. In conducting the market study for Carlton Landing, it was realized that we're in this interesting triangle of geography with Dallas and Texas, or Dallas and Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and that there's not a lot of options for these residents of these cities to go for nearby retreats. So it's worked out well. We've seen buyers and residents from all these areas, as well as Kansas and Missouri. Next slide. Not only is Carlton Landing Oklahoma's youngest town, we're also the first new urbanist town to incorporate its own municipality. We do have a mayor and an elected board of trustees. We were also able to set up a tax increment finance district, which is set up to provide about 80 million over 25 years for community improvement. Along with our 3% sales tax and property tax, a 9.5 million obligation bond is providing funding for our civic structures, cultural facilities, parks, and trails. Next slide is our swim beach, which is one of our more recently funded TIF projects. And then go on to the next slide as well. We're also home to Oklahoma's first rural charter school with about 75 students from pre-K through 8 from Carlton Landing and the surrounding towns that are able to take advantage of a hands-on approach to learning. You can see our learning cottages here as well, which allows our school to grow incrementally. All three of my children have gone here, and it's been really nice for them to be able to just walk to and from school by themselves. Next slide. So for our civic buildings, this is a quick glance. Many of these structures have been home to a multitude of events or businesses at one time. Pavilion has been the meeting place for potlucks, town meetings, school events, and also our church's home for several years before we moved into the building you'll see in the next slide. And you also can see the pop-ups as well. That's a great place for businesses to start, and these small, simple wooden buildings right there, that white one. And then as their business grows, they're able to move on to a more established brick and mortar location. And you can go on to the next slide. And next slide. And then this is the meeting house. Right now is a great place to grab a cup of coffee, but it was previously the sales office, and before that, the developers' offices as well. So moving on to local architecture, our local vernacular is inspired by the Oklahoma farmhouse. It's based on rural traditions, with most of our homes in wood clapboard and board and batten and standing seam tin roofs. The farmhouse motif on the lake is utilized in the same way the beach house is used in 30A. Steve Mazan has provided us with his living traditions guide as our design. Our urban standards intentionally include sidewalks and front porches pushed closer to the street, bringing people together more frequently. We'll just kind of scroll through some of these pictures. It will show you about our thoroughfares. They provide vehicular access while prioritizing pedestrians and cyclists and allowing multiple points of crossing with slower speeds of traffic. Our architectural standards provide a cohesive approach to home design, allowing a variety of homes to fit together, and just keep going through all the way to that big house. Our architecture is also egalitarian, encouraging larger homes with humility and more modest homes to be equally celebrated. So the homes that Rob is scrolling through here are just a few of the styles you'll find in Carlton Landing. They're all built by members of our Builders Guild, most of whom are also full-time residents. And then the structural masonry homes shown next. It actually represents probably the largest concentration of newly constructed mass wall masonry homes in the country. We have about 18 load-bearing clay brick masonry homes throughout the community. And then scroll on down to that pocket neighborhood. We have a few pocket neighborhoods in the community, which are really unique landmarks within the community that provide relief and distinction within the predominant design motif. And we're going to go down, and then this is the Bend. That's a hybrid of structural masonry and cedar shake houses. The next slide is light imprints. On the development side, we have implemented Tom Lowe's light imprint, which provides an ecologically sensitive way of managing our stormwater. We allow the rainwater to soak through the rock beds and the seasonal creeks. I used to live on Boardwalk, and my youngest would always get so excited whenever an instant creek would show up outside our door after a heavy rain. It's also less expensive and less invasive to implement. So right here on this slide, you can see a small retention area at the top of the rock bed. That is where rainfall gathers after a heavy rain, and then children love to go out there and play in it. You can see the next slide, my child is one of those who loves to embrace that pool of water while the Clean City kids look on. So, and then going down to the next, that's just a little bit more of the light imprint you can see in the rock beds. And the next slide is celebrating our community. We can't talk about how beautiful our town is without celebrating the people and the culture and the life here. We've got 25 full-time families. The majority of our part-time homeowners come frequently and serve on the school board, HOA, or as a town trustee. We've created great annual traditions like the Porch Fest, which started in Ithaca, but is also at Carlton Landing now, and the bonfire at the borough. So just the next few slides, just kind of showing our lake life, fishing, boating, swimming, all essential to the success of our community here. Now, so our sales report. So in 2020, we had an unprecedented year in sales, selling almost 100 homes that year, not including customs. Like in many other places during the pandemic, I do think that people were revisiting where they choose to live, and those that were on the fence about having a second home at a lake in the country suddenly had a very practical reason to do so. Since then, we've been very busy keeping up with the demand. And so we're really looking forward to several next phases of our development. So real quickly, we're approaching $400 a foot on resale furnished homes. We have very little inventory. We have completely sold out of our next phase that I'll show you in just a second. Our builder's price is about $250 a foot, not including the lot. If you go down to the next phase, this is Lincoln Square. We're set to break ground on that a little bit later this summer. We've sold out. We're also going to have room for some civic buildings here as well. That's our town hall at the top, and then possibly a library and post office as well. The next slide is our first concentration of commercial space and live work. That will also break ground probably around this fall. And then the next phase is our new marina, which is about to move, and we'll be able to double our slip capacity there and allow the cove that we are on to be more swimming, kayaking, paddleboarding. So then I don't have the rest of the slide or the last slide, but I'll just quickly talk about one of our next phases. Grant's been working with Tom Dougherty on an exciting project called the Godschwitz House. So it's more prevalent in the Netherlands and Belgium, but it is a more integrated way to include our elderly population in our community than in the conventional assisted living. So it's going to be in phase 8, right up from our church on Church Street. It'll be a series of cottages centered around a courtyard. You know, it's going to be in a partnership between the town founder and our and the builder. So I think most of you guys know that we recently received the 2022 Charter Award for region, metropolis, city, town category. And we also will be having a field trip on March 26th on the last day of CNU. So I hope that you can make it out and come see this wonderful town in person.
Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you, Ashley. You know, that was a great presentation, Katie, despite the technical difficulties, and I wish I was able to help more with that. You know, let me just, you know, many questions, you know, come to me. There's so much to ask there. First of all, I wanted to ask, what were the precedents that these two projects followed? You know, with the Wheeler District, you may have looked at other municipal airports that were redeveloped around the country, like Miller and Stapleton, Carlton Landing. You know, perhaps other traditional labor developments were, you know, particularly inspiring. Can both of you talk about those precedents?
Sure, I'll jump in and talk a little bit about Wheeler District. So you're absolutely correct. Miller, Stapleton. We've spent a lot of time traveling around what was Pinewood Forest, now town at Trilith. We've been really lucky to be plugged in with CNU and NTBA and really had the opportunity to look at other projects. One thing that was really transformational for our team, though, was we actually took a team trip to Copenhagen in 2017. For us, we were walking around saying we were trying to develop the most bikeable neighborhood in Oklahoma. And so we really thought we ought to go see the most bikeable neighborhood in the world. And so we spent about a week in Copenhagen as a team. And really, I can speak to very specific influences that came back to that. As you were here on the ground, there's things that we can point to directly, whether it was just spending time together as a team, but also just obviously the amazing influence that we were able to see there. So
Katie?
On the Carlton Landing side, you know, Ashley was able to be part of that original master plan, but we have a gorgeous book that DPC put together that I've been able to look through as well. I think because of our vast lake, it is truly like an inland sea. Seaside was the obvious inspiration and precedent. This could be considered the seaside of the Midwest. Also, I know that they looked at Lake Aluma in Oklahoma City for some of the design as well.
Okay, I'll remind everybody, if you have questions, we will be getting the Q&A from the audience, so ask them and use the Q&A function of Zoom. I wanted to ask about the demand, in a different way. Perhaps you're both developing in areas where there was skepticism as to the demand. Although one is pretty close to the downtown core, but across the river in an area where it hadn't been developed for a long time, and another really and part of the state that had not grown for a long time. Can you talk about the demand for living out there and how you looked at that demand and how that worked out?
You first. You want? Okay, I can go first. Well, I do think that, again, we're a little bit different because we are in rural Oklahoma, and we have this wonderful resource such as the lake. They do want Carlton Landing to be a viable full-time community, but the majority of the homeowners are part-time residents. We're about 10 minutes outside of Eufaula, which is a small rural town, and about 10 minutes from Longtown, which is another one. So we're kind of right in between there. My kids have gone to Carlton Landing Academy, and now my oldest is at the high school in Eufaula. There's a lot of crossover. While Carlton Landing can provide some of those residents that have been part of these communities forever a different place to live, we're also bringing other things to these communities. I would like to say that the whole overall area of Lake Eufaula has been improved with Carlton Landing being here. I would say the demand right now is more for secondary homeowners. Those people from Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, like I said, the pandemic really exposed us to a lot of people. We have a very strong rental market. So I think we have our main vacation property management group has about 55 homes in their program, and they are full about every weekend. We generally will get some full-time residents from that, but definitely second home buyers.
I'll say from the Wheeler District perspective, for us, we are, as I said, 1.25 miles from the CBD, but really we're in kind of those traditional ring neighborhoods, kind of that area right outside of downtown. And there is really not anywhere to build massive pockets of new construction. Most of that was built out decades ago, really. And so for us, we have the opportunity to provide new homes in the urban core. And, I think for people who might have lived in a historic home, now we have the opportunity to live in a new home, but in a similar location near downtown. And so just like most projects that have residential as part of them, demand has just been insane from 2020 into 2021 and continuing. I think I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, we've got about 30 homes under construction right now, and 27 of those are already sold. So we're continuing to see that demand, even as other pieces of the housing market are starting to slow down just a little bit.
So are both of you, doing quite well in terms of sales at this point? I mean, it's strong despite the fact that they're such different markets. You're both seeing a strong demand for sales.
Yes, we sold out of our next phase last March. At that time, we did not have utilities priced for that area, so we pre-sold them with the possibility that there would be a price increase once the bid for utilities came back in. So we got that a few months ago, took that to the buyers. They were able to decide if they wanted to continue with their lot purchase or not. All but 5 did. And I listed those 5 for sale last week, and they were sold out within an hour.
Wow. It's striking that both of these projects seem to be sort of a laboratory for new urbanist ideas, in different ways. And can you, Can you talk about that a little bit and how you're both manifesting that in a different way?
I think, oh,
You go, Ashley.
I think from the Wheeler District perspective, you know, for us, it's the idea of we've got all this space, we've got a full 150 acres, but we are developing it out, you know, really block by block, phase by phase. So we have this opportunity to really kind of test things in the block format or in like a small section of the community and really see how the market reacts to it, how our, you know, our new neighbors react to it, things like that. So one example for us is our cottage product. Originally in our plat and in our master plan, those lots were drawn in as our standard 36 by 93 foot lot. It would have had one single family runway home on it. We had this cool idea, worked with a local architect, Sam Day, here in Oklahoma City to come up with our cottage product. Took that 36 by 93 lot and really transformed it into 3 24 by 36 foot lots, ran a pedestrian path down the center of it. And so because it's a master plan community, you know, you own the land around it, you have the ability to make those changes and do things on the fly. We're also really lucky to have a home building partner that's willing to jump in and take on some of those crazier ideas along with us. Even kicking things off by installing a Ferris wheel along the river. So for us, I think that it's, you know, we love kind of the opportunity to get to play with the plan a little bit. We're also really lucky to have had Dover Cole set us up with such a fantastic framework for us, our team to really jump in and take down piece by piece.
Can
you talk about some of the laboratory ideas in Carlton Landing?
I can. Probably a little bit personal for us. That's exactly why we moved here in 2014. My husband Clay was working on his structural masonry concept, and you know, while we can build that in a city, and it was a little bit more attractive to come out to the lake where there wasn't as strict codes and really dive in some research and development on the mass wall masonry. And since then, we've just kind of found our home here and have continued to build. Also say, you know, from the beginning, the whole thing was an experiment coming into a rural setting. I know Grant actually had to start a home building company before he was able to attract other builders to come out here. And then typically so far in our development, we've had single family homes primarily, a few condos, but these lots have been, you know, small 1/3 of an acre lots. And now with one of our next phases, we're working with Tom Lowe on the West Estates, and those will be our first multi-acreage parcels that we're going to develop.
We're going to get to Q&A in a minute. I just wanted to ask about the programming and public events in these two projects. And particularly, I'm interested in the Porch Fest in Carlton Landing. It began in my neighborhood in Ithaca, but we have in my neighborhood 6,000 people and 50,000 people in the city. It's amazing that you can have a Porch Fest in such a small community. But I'd like to hear about it.
Okay, well, probably on a much smaller scale than Ithaca, but I think at the core of Carlton Landing, it is about community. And we have found that having events such as this, especially ones that are not typical for this part of Oklahoma, brings a level of excitement. And it's also a draw for people to come. So with Porch Fest, you know, we knew the history of Porch Fest in Ithaca, and one of our friends, Scott Doyen, had brought it to Atlanta prior to our move out here, and we were able to see the success there as well. So just kind of a bunch of us here decided that Carlton Landing has a lot of porches, and it would be let's put some musicians on them. So I think this is our 4th annual one, and the first one was really big, food trucks coming out. It attracted obviously not only the residents in Carlton Landing, but from the areas around us, which is always nice when we can find some common ground with them and do things together. So we've had musicians come from Eufaula as well. And then as it's grown each year, some years have been smaller because of rain. It's gonna be maybe snowing this weekend when we have it. But I think we've got a great lineup, and it's definitely a day that is full of excitement and kind of renewed vigor about community.
So what about the programming and the events that you have at Wheeler District?
Yeah, so for us, you know, it's really a way for us to introduce people to our project, invite them to find a way to interact with our project, whether they're a homeowner, a neighbor to the community, just someone who lives in Oklahoma City. But to come down here and experience Wheeler District and not just see what it's all about, but actually, you know, maybe have a little part in it. They might be a small business that pops up at one of our events, you know, maybe a musician that plays. I mentioned the Wheeler Crit bike races. Those are a lot of fun on Tuesday nights. But it's also an opportunity for us to kind of seed that idea of walkability and bikeability being priorities of the neighborhood and of the district. We literally shut streets down to cars every Tuesday night, March through September, and allow these bike races to take place. When you move into Wheeler District, you get a little Wheeler District branded cowbell in your opening gift so that you can come out onto your front porch and cheer the cyclists along. And those cyclists have really become collaborators within our community. They become partners in our community. You know, we actually brought them out as we were designing our streets and had them ride their bikes over our raised crosswalks to make sure that they still, you know, functioned and really prioritized cyclists, took some of our tighter curves to make sure that they still worked for their crit races. So it's a lot of fun to use public events to kind of seed some of those key ingredients back into not just the public version of Wheeler District, but the district itself.
We're going to get into some of the Q&A, and Lynn Ellsworth asked some questions about speculation, speculative investment, and how do you prevent that from happening if you do, or is that a problem? Are there rules preventing investing in these homes as rental units? Are some built as rental units? It's a lot of questions, but getting to the idea, I guess, of home speculation.
Yeah, so I think from the Wheeler District perspective, you know, we welcome investors, we welcome residents. You know, we are excited to have a rental in the community before we're able to offer multifamily, which is something that we're actively working on right now. You know, the thing that we have regulations for is Airbnbs. That's kind of the hot thing here in Oklahoma City, is taking homes and turning them into Airbnbs. So we have regulations on whether or not it's your primary residence. You're limited on number of days you can Airbnb if it's not, although you're welcome to still buy a property and Airbnb it. You just have to stick within those regulations. So for us, that's kind of the speculative piece that we've been focused on. We've had lots of people, you know, we have a waiting list of people who are wanting to buy homes and actually live in the community. And so it's not been something that we've had any major issues with at this point. Although I know with a lot of communities, it's always on your radar as you're doing new construction.
I'd say similar story here. We definitely welcome investors and spec builds as well. We do have a strong rental market for full-time, long-term leases and short-term as well. At one time, we did have restrictions on how people were able to rent their homes. We have since removed those. There's a few property management groups here, and owners are able to also list their homes on Airbnb. Again, you know, the majority of our homeowners are part-time. So when they come to buy, they are looking at their rental income potential. And that is a big driver here right now in their home buying decision.
We had a question about the sustainability features of these projects. Maybe Katie, you can start with that aspect.
So definitely, I think the light imprint plays into that with the sustainability, just embracing our natural landscape and terrain. We have our brick homes here as well, which will also last hundreds, if not thousands of years. And then also many of our builders are implementing ICF as well, and just other green building practices like geothermal.
What is ICF?
ICF is insulated concrete. It's similar. It's similar to mass wall masonry, but with the concrete. So we've had one builder do that alongside, and then we have the brick homes as well.
So here in Wheeler District, one thing that I often fail to mention in my presentations, especially when I'm trying to fit it all into 10 minutes, but all of our homes are geothermal. And that's really something that is not normal in the Oklahoma City market. Our primary home builder here in Wheeler District actually built the first all geothermal neighborhood prior to starting to work with us here in Wheeler District. So Wheeler homes are geothermal, and then we also have introduced solar as an opportunity here within our project. So we have a partnership with a solar solar company that allows you to maybe add it on, or we actually have some homes that we're starting to look at coming standard with solar as they come to the market.
We had a question about the shopfront homes, the live work units. I guess they're in Wheeler, not in Carlton Landing at this point. But how do they work? Or do you have somebody buying it then living in the upper section and actually working downstairs, or renting that out? Could you tell me how that works?
Yeah, so we've seen both actually. So we've got residents who are living in the upper floors and renting potentially to the wine shop downstairs. The owner of the coffee shop lives above his unit, so he's utilizing all 3 floors. But the CPA firm that is in the ground floor, they actually own the space and then are renting their residential units. So we've kind of seen people use them in all different ways. It's kind of been, going back to that idea of it being a lab, this was a really fun product for us to bring to market and kind of get to just see how people used it. And that's been really fun for us. All 10 again are sold. We're actively planning on working on the next phase of these. And I believe 9 of the 10 have commercial uses on the ground floor. There's one where the resident lives in all 3. Again, these are a 15-foot wide product. They're attached. So you get about 440 square feet on the ground floor of commercial space. They have the ADA entrance and an ADA restroom. So it allows them to flex into that commercial space, but as you could live in all 3 floors of it as well. So they really offer some unique flexibility.
But there is a way to divide the 2.
So they're actively, they have 2 entrances.
Okay,
so yeah, there's a residential entrance and then the ADA commercial entrance.
And there's a term called house hacking, where you can kind of reduce the amount that you're spending for your mortgage, make things more affordable by getting a house where you have rental. It seems like a possibility for either house hacking or business hacking.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's, I'd say we're actively kind of encouraging that. ADUs is another thing that we're really focused on. We've got lots of residents that are looking at adding those either now or setting up to have them in the future, just really increasing that density overall.
Is that sort of a thing in Carlton Landing as well?
Yes, that's very prevalent in Carlton Landing. We do not have restrictions throughout the community on what can be commercial or what cannot be commercial. So you'll be walking down the street and somebody is using their detached garage as their home building company's office. We have a similar product coming online that I was talking about, the commercial live work townhouses down on Water Street. That's really going to, I think, put more of the focus of our community down on Water Street by the water. And we have 2 very specific units that will only be commercial. The rest of them have the ability to be either. And I think they're a very similar product with the 2 entrances, and then somebody can live above as well. They'll be 3 stories tall.
which kind of leads into this question by Rick Cole. Given the family and regional connection between these two projects, what kind of synergy is there between the two projects, given their different, they've got completely different locational aspects to them, but do you learn from each other? Do you share resources?
Absolutely, like 100%. I always say that we were really lucky here at Wheeler District to actually have Carlton Landing kick things off first. Katie can attest that we're constantly pinging them and asking them, how did you guys solve this question? Or what does your association do in this instance? But more than that, we've actually been really lucky to take frequent trips as a team up, especially with our home building company. And we can tour and really get on the ground within just a couple of hours to see a really great housing product. And so I think they are totally different projects. Really, their ultimate goals are a little different, but at the same time, I think they both still have those new urbanist principles all the way through. And some of the main key features of both projects, I think, are the same too. So we're really lucky to have Carlton Landing so close to us.
Yeah, same, likewise. I think one of the fun things is, at Carlton Landing, we definitely have a different house style. And so different audiences. Wheeler is much more geared to that city look. And so it's been really fun to kind of look at what Wheeler is doing, really pushing the design a bit. And I think Carlton Landing is also doing it in its same way, but to a very different market. So there's lots of crossover and definitely the sharing of ideas and what has worked and what hasn't.
This is a highly technical one, but Hazel Boris asks about any chance you could share your full finance stack structure, and I don't even know what that is, but helped us to understand the ratios of TIF, equity, and debt.
So I'll say from the Wheeler District perspective, Hazel, there is not enough time between now and seeing you for us to get into our full finance stack with you. Although I'd be happy to grab you at CNU and talk about this a little bit in person. But I will say from the Wheeler District perspective, like I mentioned, that the project wouldn't have been possible without the TIF agreement for the city. So that $60 million is eligible for reimbursement on public infrastructure. The way that process works for us is we actually turn a stack of invoices into the city each year. They review them and certify whether or not they feel like they were public. And that amount is then really kind of set aside. And as we create increment through the project, it is eligible for reimbursement up to that $60 million. To date, we have given the city about $10 million worth of invoices on the project. And we received incremental reimbursement of about $150,000. So that kind of gives you an idea of increment is slow to create in the beginning of the project. Obviously, we'll see that grow as the project continues to grow. So we hope that reimbursement gets a little bit larger and catches up. But to date, the TIF is something that's really just kind of getting its feet under it and getting started as a project.
I'll say on the Carlton Landing side, we have an amazing town manager, Greg Buckley. But Hazel, I could put you in touch with him. It's definitely a good relationship between the developer, the town trustees as well. And Greg kind of is the go-between between those two parties on making sure the TIF is implemented. So he would be a great resource if you want to get his information from me later.
I'm going to say that we're at an hour point right now, and we're going to continue to answer questions from the Q&A. This is going to be put on the video is going to be posted. So if you have asked questions and you need to go, you can come back and take a look at how these questions were answered tomorrow when the video is posted. Following on that, can you tell me a little bit about the differences of working being a project located in a big city versus being a project where you're essentially your own municipality, and how that affects how the project is going?
Well, I'd say we're constantly jealous of Carlton Landing being their own municipality and getting to make some of their own rules while we're not able to make some of our own rules here. You know, for us, we worked really hard on our zoning, our covenants. Like, I think that for land development, a lot of people may not know or just may not be aware of all of the work that goes in on the front end, creating, you know, legal documents and complex agreements with the city that have allowed us to come in and do this type of development. Our project is a PUD, and so that was, it's a long PUD. It had quite a few variances as far as the city was concerned. I saw a question about how the fire marshal is on board. We're definitely unique in Oklahoma City, but I'd say, you know, our standard housing spacing really isn't that far off from what you might see in a historic neighborhood here in Oklahoma City. It's just new construction. It might be a little closer to the street and have the garage in the back, but really it's not something that they're completely unfamiliar with. Our streets are definitely tighter. It's pretty fun, actually. The fire department will bring trucks and teams out here, and they will take their trucks and practice making turns in our neighborhood for training exercises and things like that, because we really are kind of a unique thing here in Oklahoma City. But it's also a lot of fun to get to collaborate with our planning department and other local developers, really to just kind of look at best practices and how we can implement them on the district and the neighborhood level.
I'd say because of our location and being very rural, in the beginning, most everything was under the developer's framework. So everything was in-house. When we moved out here, there was no code enforcement or anything. So it was a little bit more Wild West. As we've grown, we have been able to take some of that load off of the developer and put it on the town, put it on different planning committees. And so it has become a little bit more regulated as we've grown. One of our maybe hardships is the trade pool. We're having to bring in quite a bit of people from outside of even our local area. So just trying to find enough hands to come out here to help us build this has been a little bit challenging.
Can you, Katie, just briefly tell the folks about what the area, like what other settlements are in the area and how does that all work together?
Yeah, so the main town is Eufaula. It's about 10 minutes away from here. It's probably the largest town outside of here. It's small. Can't remember exactly how many people, but we've got a few restaurants. Public schools are there. They're great as well. So it's definitely a community that we like to try to work with and be a part of as well. Other than that, McAllister is 30 minutes away, and that is our closest Walmart. So that kind of lets you know a little bit of our location. We're about an hour and a half south of Tulsa as well. So it is a great place for people to have a second home on the lake. It's a beautiful lake. It has not always been what Oklahoma, or for tourism, it's not necessarily the lake everybody was coming to. And I think that Carlton Landing has really changed that narrative. And I concentrate only in Carlton Landing on sales, but I have a lot of good relationships with realtors outside of Carlton Landing, and all of real estate on Lake Eufaula right now is booming. So I think that Carlton Landing has had a hand in that. We've brought shops and restaurants, and we're also pouring into the existing communities around us. And I think that just helps the whole lake to be able to grow and thrive right now.
Katie, that's such a Oklahoma way to measure things, your proximity to a Walmart.
Right. Exactly.
Mark said that he loves both of these communities, but what were the biggest roadblocks that had to be overcome on the civic and community level in getting both of these neighborhoods started?
I'm happy to jump in and talk, from the Wheeler District perspective. For us, it was really just creating our TIF agreement with the city and working through all the details of that. As I've mentioned multiple times, it was a necessary piece of the project. And so it was something that we had to have in place before we could start even those first pieces of infrastructure construction. I think also our zoning code, our PUD, was just something a little different. So there was a lot that we had to work through with the city there. So I think with each of those things, like we've kind of been a unique new thing for Oklahoma City. And that doesn't mean that we haven't used best practices from ways that things have been done in other parts of the city, but to kind of pile them all together in one location, I think has been a little challenging to work through on a few different levels. But as we've gone through phase one, we're halfway through phase two, and we're already starting to plat phase three, which is going to be double the size of what the first two phases were. We, are really seeing that I think we've worked through a lot of those challenges and getting things kind of up and running. And Rob, I think you've already spoken to this, but just, developing in a new neighborhood, it's, we've got to get people excited and interested in moving here. And so I think that that was kind of a unique piece, as well as really kind of kicking off a whole new neighborhood in Oklahoma City. But we've been thrilled with the opportunity and the process, and really the response that we've seen from the broader community.
I think for me, I'm not on the development side of things, or wasn't, in the beginning. So that might be something that Grant would have to speak to a little bit more from my side, unfortunately.
What strikes me about the Wheeler District is you have that road going right through the middle of it, number one. I mean, that has to have some traffic calming. And I notice on the plan, you've got a couple of roundabouts that are planned. I don't know how that's going. You've got sort of a vision for traffic calming that, and how you're getting along with that, or are you making progress towards it?
We are. So, we've always known since the beginning, Western Avenue sees about 20,000 cars a day. Right here, that thoroughfare that runs through the project. And so, for us, we've known since the very beginning that this was something that we were going to have to do, was calm down traffic on Western Avenue. Dover Coal came to the table with really cool ideas for how to do that. They had someone as part of their team, Rick Hall, who I think a lot of people might be familiar with, who helped us work through those pieces and really decide that a roundabout was our best opportunity. So they've been in the master plan since day one. We do not own Western Avenue, though. It is a city street. And so we've had to work with the city on what that could look like, what our opportunity is. And, we've been really excited with our progress on it so far. So we see the roundabouts as coming along with phase three. We are actively engineering them right now, and are actively slowly working our way through the city approval processes. But we really see those as being something that'll come along with phase three of the development. So here soon.
You seem to have a progressive public works department in Oklahoma City.
We do. Generally, I'll say, really, I think whether you can view some of their specific views as progressive or not, what they are is very open to conversation. They're very open to sitting down, talking through things with developers, working through things. I think that makes them, they're very collaborative. And so I think that is part of what makes them so easy to work with. And really, we don't necessarily always win, but I think everybody's happy with the compromises that we come to at the end of everything.
I don't know, Katie, whether you can speak to any of the biggest infrastructure challenges at Carlton Landing.
As far as with our sewer or wastewater,
well, the streets, anything that's like the major development infrastructure.
Okay. I think the stormwater would have definitely been our biggest challenge because of our topography. We start at very high elevation. As you drive into Carlton Landing, it's a climb for about 2 miles up to the overlook, which is beautiful. And you don't really think that you're in Oklahoma because of how high you are and looking down at the lake. But from there, it's down all the way to the lake. So that water is running, shutting down the hill constantly, and we get very serious rain. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge that they've had. I think it was handled beautifully, working with Tom Lowe on that, instead of having, these huge sewer pipes. We were able to come at it from a very ecologically sensitive manner. We also are about to complete our wastewater treatment plant. So we are completely self-sufficient. We've been on a lagoon system this far, and wastewater treatment plant should be finished up about the end of this month.
I wanted to ask about the nurturing of the mixed use. Both of you seem to have these interesting businesses that have come in to try to create a sense of place or a sense of community. Third places, they seem to be a little bit bigger in Wheeler District. But can you talk about recruiting businesses to be part of these neighborhoods?
I'll speak to it real quickly. I think probably the Meeting House and Mama Tiggs have been our most established businesses, and both of those owners definitely took a risk, and it was their initiative, but the developer has come alongside when needed to try to help that be a possibility. With our next phase of development coming up, we're adding a bookstore as well, and Grant is also helping on that as far as providing the building, and then there will be a reasonable rent based on the percentage of sales until you get to a certain point. And another popular way for people to begin starting businesses out here is either online or out of their home. One of our new businesses here is called The Pantry, and it's grocery delivery. That they actually are providing their own groceries. And so when somebody comes to stay for the weekend, you can get online through The Pantry and order everything you might need for breakfast or everything you might need for dinner. And then they go and place those groceries in your home. So they have been actually running it out of their home here, and they're now partnering with the developer to have a space in our welcome center. So it's just those baby steps, and definitely has to be driven by the business owner, but wherever the town or the developer can step in to ease that, we try, and so that we can just continue the growth here.
From the Wheeler District perspective, the idea of it being a mixed use community has been there since the very beginning. And really, we view the project as becoming more denser, more mixed use, more commercial, the closer to the thoroughfare it gets and the closer to the riverfront that it gets. And so, obviously we're developing in the southwest quadrant, a little away from those, but also knowing that really kind of seeding that idea. The vision is, be able to park your car on a Friday night and not have to get back in it until Monday morning, or even beyond that. And so in order for that to happen, it requires those mixed use elements to be here from day one. And really, we've been so fortunate to have a couple of businesses that really have partnered along with us and really taken that leap of faith in starting their business here in a brand new neighborhood. We're actively trying to get the number of rooftops up to continue to support their business, but we actually have two businesses here. Taco Nation is in the old airport terminal building, and the Big Friendly constructed a brewery out here. Both of them started as mobile businesses. So they both actually started in old school buses. So Taco Nation had a taco school bus, and Big Friendly had a rolling beer school bus. And so those mobile businesses, it's really fun to have created a place for them to open their first brick and mortars. So they're taking a leap on a couple of levels, but I think it just the nature of them as business owners and the nature of their businesses. They're innovative. They're people who are willing to take on kind of a crazy cool idea and run with it. And so I think Wheeler District just fits right into that for them.
I wanted to ask a little bit about, inclusiveness and how you're bringing neighborhoods around, especially in the Wheeler District. You have some neighborhoods around there that probably have, varying incomes, maybe some poverty around there. And you do have is it a charter school that's located there? Or?
Yeah, so it's a public charter school that has a neighborhood boundary. So within that neighborhood boundary that serves 5 different communities here, 5 different neighborhoods, those kids, it's their as of right elementary.
Do you also have any plans for affordable housing, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'll just start by saying that, while including the broader community, connecting with our neighbors, connecting with the surrounding community has been really one of the highest goals of our project. We haven't been perfect about it, and we're constantly working on ways to do that and ways to connect to the broader community. I think for us, the school was one big piece of it, but it's not the only piece of it. As I mentioned, Wheeler District is an incremental project. We're only in phase 2 of 10. So there is so much more of Wheeler District to come. We have plans to reconnect the street grid. So right now, the existing neighborhood west of us, when the downtown air park was built, they closed off those streets so they now dead end into the airport. As part of our master plan, we're reopening those street grid connections from Southwest 20th all the way up to Southwest 11th, reconnecting Southwest 15th Street, which is a major thoroughfare. And so really, we're creating that porosity and really opening Wheeler District up to just knit right into the contextual neighborhood that's directly west of us here. I think in addition to that, we are actively working on an affordable housing program. As part of our TIF agreement with the city, we voluntarily promised that 20% of our for sale housing would hit HUD affordability standards from 70% to 120% AMI. We've been able to achieve that so far just through built product without having to bring any subsidy to the table or anything like that. But with construction prices where they're at, with housing demand in the market where it's at, that's not always going to be the case. And so Wheeler Community Foundation, which is the nonprofit arm of our development, has full plans to have an affordable housing program. And it's something that we're actively planning right now, and something that I would see being implemented as part of the 3rd phase of our project, if not sooner.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Katie?
Yeah, so similar to Wheeler, we are 10 years into our 30-year master plan. So we have always had the intention, and I don't want to speak too much for the developer, but I believe that it is still in the works to create some sort of worker housing. We have a pretty large farm area as well. And I believe that from there to the entrance is where we have identified as possible locations for that. We also have the Carlton Landing Community Foundation, where it is set up as a possibility that the Carlton Landing would retain ownership of the lot or the land and allow a more affordable house to be built on that. Though that is not happening quite yet, but I know that, we're taking steps to hopefully get there in the future, as well as just, with the smaller houses, the borough would be one example where we wanted to come in and provide a different product. Like, we want our teachers to be able to live here. We want some of our tradesmen to be able to live here. And I think that comes from, some of where the foundation stepping in, but also creating different designs and different places to live that can speak to different levels of affordability.
Well, thank you very much, Ashley and Katie. This has been really informative and fun. So we look forward to coming and seeing you in Oklahoma City in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wow. Yeah, I hope to see you all at the field trip at Carlton Landing.
Yes, we're so excited. Seeing you 30 is going to be a blast. We can't wait to see everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Well,
Rob.
thanks. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.